My 8-year-old daughter refused to go home one night, not crying, not screaming, just shaking and whispering, "Mom, please don't make me go back." I thought she was being dramatic. I thought she just didn't like my boyfriend. I was wrong, because a few nights later, I woke up and realized someone had been standing next to my bed, watching me, waiting for something. My name is Evelyn Carter. I used to believe I was a careful mother, the kind who noticed things, the kind who protected her child. I was wrong. It started on a quiet Thursday night, nothing unusual, nothing dramatic. I had just pulled up outside the Carter family's house to pick up Lily after her sleepover. The street was calm, the kind of suburban silence you only notice when everything feels normal. Porch lights, distant TV sounds through windows, a dog barking somewhere far away, safe. Lily stepped out of the house slowly. No running, no smile, no mom, like she always did. She just stood there on the front step, holding her small overnight bag, like it weighed too much. I frowned. That was the first moment something felt off. Small, easy to ignore. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, forcing a light tone. "You ready to go home?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked past me. Not at me. Past me. Toward the car. Toward the street. Toward something I couldn't see. Then she shook her head. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just no. "Lily?" I stepped closer. "What's wrong?" Her fingers tightened around the strap of her bag. Her knuckles turned pale. "Mom," she said quietly, "I don't want to go home." I let out a small breath, almost a laugh. Relief, more than concern. Sleepover emotions. Too much sugar. Too much excitement. "Hey," I said gently, crouching down. "You had fun, right? You're just tired." She shook her head again, slower this time. "Something is wrong." That sentence should have stayed with me. It should have stopped everything, but it didn't. "What do you mean?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward the car again, then back to me. "He's there." I felt a small, quick irritation. "Daniel, of course." "Lily," I said, softer now but firmer. "Daniel's at home, not here." She didn't respond right away, then, almost in a whisper, "I don't like him." There it was, the real reason, or at least the one I chose to believe. I had been expecting this. Every article, every friend, every late-night Google search had warned me. Blended families take time. Children resist change, especially after divorce, especially when someone new moves in. And yes, Daniel had moved in fast. Too fast, some people said, but they didn't know what it felt like to finally not be alone, to finally have someone steady, someone kind, someone who made the house feel full again. "Sweetheart," I said gently, reaching for her hand. "He's trying, okay? He cares about you." She pulled her hand back. Not aggressively, just enough. "He listens." I blinked. "What?" She leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "He listens when you're not there." A chill brushed across the back of my neck. Quick, fleeting, gone before I could hold on to it. "That doesn't make sense, Lily," I said, standing up now. "You're just nervous, that's all." She didn't argue. That was the part I didn't understand. She just looked at me, like she was waiting for me to understand something. I couldn't see. "Come on," I said, opening the car door. "It's late." She didn't move. "Lily." Slowly, she walked toward the car, each step hesitant, careful, like she was walking into something she couldn't escape. When she reached me, she grabbed my hand. Tight. Too tight. Mom," she whispered one last time. "Please don't make me go back." I wish I had listened to that sentence. I wish I had stopped, turned around, asked more questions, done anything differently. But I didn't. I buckled her into the seat, closed the door, walked around to the driver's side. Normal, routine, safe. As I started the engine, I glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring out the window, at the darkness. And for a second, just a second, I had the strangest feeling that she wasn't afraid of going home. She was afraid of what was already there. I told myself she was just having a hard time adjusting. I told myself it was normal. I told myself I was doing the right thing. I didn't realize my 8-year-old daughter was trying to save my life. By the time we got home, the house looked exactly the way it always did. Warm lights glowing through the windows, the porch lamp already on, the faint outline of someone moving inside. Normal. Daniel opened the door before I even reached the steps. He smiled the moment he saw us. Easy, natural, familiar. "Hey," he said, stepping aside. "You made it back." That was one of the things I liked about him. He always made it feel like we were expected, like we belonged there. "How was the sleepover?" he asked, looking at Lily. His tone was gentle, warm, careful, exactly the way it should have been. Lily didn't answer. She walked past him without a word, her shoulder brushing lightly against the wall as if she was trying to stay as far away from him as possible. Daniel paused for just a second. It was subtle. If I hadn't been standing right there, I might have missed it. The smile didn't disappear, but it tightened. Just a little. "Long night, huh?" he said, glancing at me instead. I let out a small sigh. "Yeah, she's exhausted." He nodded, stepping back to let me in. "Dinner's still warm if you're hungry." The smell hit me as soon as I walked in. Garlic, butter, something roasted, comforting, domestic, safe. That was Daniel. He filled spaces, not loudly, not aggressively, just completely. I set my keys down on the counter and glanced toward the hallway. Lily's bedroom door was already closed. She didn't even say goodnight," I said quietly. Daniel leaned against the counter, arms loosely crossed. "She'll come around," he said. "Kids take time." I nodded, even though something about the way he said it made me hesitate. Not the words, the certainty. "She just needs to adjust," he continued. "Everything's been a lot for her." I looked down at the counter, tracing a faint scratch in the wood with my finger. He wasn't wrong. The divorce, the move, the changes, and then him. Daniel had come into our lives quickly, faster than I ever planned. We met through a mutual friend. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into weekends. And before I fully realized it, he was staying over more than he wasn't. "Are you sure about this?" my friend Melissa had asked me once. I remember laughing it off. "It feels right," I told her. And it did, at the time. Daniel was steady. He showed up. He remembered things, small things. The way I took my coffee, the days I worked late, the fact that I always forgot to lock the back door. At first, I thought it was thoughtful. Now, I wasn't so sure why he knew all of that. "You okay?" he asked. I looked up. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just tired." He stepped closer, resting his hand lightly on my arm. The touch was gentle, reassuring. "Hey," he said softly, "you're doing great." Something in my chest tightened because I needed to hear that more than I wanted to admit. Being a single mom wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just constant. Bills, schedules, school emails, work deadlines, and underneath all of it, a quiet fear that I wasn't enough. Daniel made that feeling smaller, or at least he seemed to. "I can talk to her," he said. "Try to make things easier." My head snapped up a little too quickly. "No," I said. Too fast. Too sharp. He noticed. Of course he did. I softened my tone. She just needs space tonight. Daniel held my gaze for a moment. Not confrontational, not upset, just watching. Of course, he said finally, stepping back. We ate in relative silence. The TV murmured in the background. A news channel neither of us was really watching. Halfway through the meal, Daniel spoke again. "She'll be okay," he said, not questioning, not wondering, certain. I nodded, but something about that certainty didn't sit right. Later that night, after Daniel went upstairs, I stood in the kitchen alone. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. I checked the doors. Front door locked, back door locked, garage closed. Routine. Then I glanced up at the small camera mounted in the corner of the living room. The tiny green light blinked steadily, recording. We had installed it a few months ago. After I mentioned feeling uneasy being alone at night, Daniel had suggested it, said it would make me feel safer. At the time, it had. Now, I wasn't sure what it was really watching. I turned off the kitchen light and headed upstairs. The hallway was dim, lit only by a small nightlight near Lily's door. I paused outside her room, listened. Silence. I opened the door gently. She was in bed, curled onto her side, awake. "Hey," I whispered, stepping inside. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were fixed on something behind me. My stomach dropped slightly. I turned. Nothing. Just the hallway. Empty. When I looked back at her, she finally spoke. "Mom." "Yeah?" Her voice was barely there. "He knows things." I forced a small smile. "What things?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "You wouldn't believe me." That was the moment I should have pushed. Asked more. Listened. But I didn't. "Get some sleep," I said softly, brushing her hair back. "We'll talk in the morning." I turned off her light and stepped out into the hallway, closing the door behind me. And as I walked toward my bedroom, I had the strangest thought. Not loud, not clear, just a quiet question in the back of my mind. How did Daniel always seem to know everything before I said it? The next few days felt normal. That's what made it worse. Nothing big happened. No arguments, no obvious signs that anything was wrong, just small things. The kind you don't notice at first, the kind you explain away. Monday morning, I left for work early. Lily had already gone to school. Daniel said he'd be working from home. By the time I got back that afternoon, the house looked exactly the way I left it. Clean, quiet, still, too still. I set my bag down and walked into the kitchen. The coffee mug I had left near the sink was on the other side of the counter. I frowned. Maybe I moved it and forgot. That happens. I told myself that. And let it go. That night after dinner, I noticed something else. Lily's backpack. She always left it by the stairs. Always. But now it was near the living room couch, zipped open. "Did you move this?" I asked. She shook her head immediately. "No." I looked at Daniel. He didn't hesitate. "Nope. Simple, casual, nothing unusual." Still, something about it lingered. That night I checked the camera. Just routine. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The living room footage played back smoothly. Hours of nothing. Light changing. Shadows shifting. Normal. Then, a gap. Just a few minutes. No error message, no warning, just missing. I stared at the screen, replaying it. Once, twice, same thing. Probably just a connection issue, I muttered. That made sense. It had happened before, but not like that. Later, as I got ready for bed, I tried to push it out of my mind. Brush teeth, wash face, routine. Daniel was already in bed, scrolling through his phone. The soft glow lit his face, calm, relaxed. "Everything okay?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah," I said, too quickly. I turned off the bathroom light and slipped under the covers. Silence settled in. At some point, I fell asleep. And then I woke up. No sound. No clear reason. Just awake. The room was dark, the kind of dark where shapes blur together. I lay still, listening. Nothing. Then yain? A feeling. Like something had just changed. Like someone had just been there. I turned my head slowly. Daniel was beside me, breathing evenly, still asleep. I exhaled, trying to relax. "You're imagining things." I closed my eyes again. The next morning, Lily was quieter than usual. Not upset, not tired, just withdrawn. She picked at her cereal, barely eating. "Everything okay?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't look at me. Then, after a moment, "He doesn't sleep." My hand froze around my coffee mug. "What?" She shrugged slightly, still not meeting my eyes. "I wake up sometimes," she said. "He's awake." I forced a small smile. "He probably just gets up for water or something." She shook her head, slow, certain. "No." Before I could respond, Daniel walked into the kitchen, right on time. "Morning," he said, cheerful as always. Lily went silent immediately. I watched her closely, the way her shoulders tensed, the way she looked down. And for the first time, I didn't just see it. I felt it. That small shift. That quiet fear. Daniel poured himself coffee, completely at ease, like nothing in the world was wrong, like he belonged there. I glanced at the camera in the corner of the living room. The tiny green light blinked, steady, recording. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if it was protecting us or missing something important. It started with a suggestion, not an argument, not a confrontation, just a suggestion. "I think she might be overwhelmed." Daniel said it casually, like he was talking about the weather. We were in the kitchen, late afternoon. Lily was upstairs in her room. I kept my eyes on the sink, rinsing the same plate longer than necessary. "Overwhelmed?" I repeated. He nodded, leaning lightly against the counter. "Yeah, it's been a lot for her. The changes, the new routine." His tone was calm, measured, reasonable. "I've been reading about it," he added. "Kids her age, they process things differently." Something in my chest tightened, because again, he wasn't wrong. "I can look into a counselor," he continued, "just to help her talk things out." I turned off the water. The silence that followed felt heavier than it should have. "A counselor?" I said. "Just someone she can open up to," he said gently. "Sometimes kids imagine things when they don't feel stable." Imagine things. The words lingered longer than the conversation. I dried my hands slowly. "She's not imagining things," I said. But even as I said it didn't sound as certain as I wanted. And Daniel didn't argue. He never argued. "Of course," he said softly. "I'm just saying we should consider all possibilities." All possibilities. including the one where my daughter was wrong. That night, I found Lily sitting on her bed, lights off, room dim except for the hallway glow. "Hey," I said, stepping inside. She didn't look up right away. "I talked to Daniel today," I said carefully. "He thinks maybe you've been feeling stressed." Her head lifted slowly. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Not fear, not exactly. Hurt. I'm not making it up," she said. "I didn't say you were," I replied quickly, too quickly. "You think I am." The way she said it, quiet, steady, hurt more than if she had yelled. I sat down beside her. "I just think maybe you're misunderstanding things," I said gently. She shook her head. "He watches you." My breath caught. "Lily." "He watches you when you're happy," she continued, "when you're not looking." A chill slid down my spine. Slow, unwelcome. "That's not true," I said. But this time, I heard it. The doubt. She didn't argue again. That was the part that stayed with me. She just looked at me, like she had already lost. Later that night, Daniel brought it up again. We were in bed, lights off, the quiet stretching between us. "I think we should take this seriously," he said. I turned slightly toward him. "In what way?" "She's showing signs of anxiety," he said. "Maybe even early paranoia." Paranoia. "She's 8, I said. "And that's exactly why we should help her early," he replied calmly. I stared into the darkness, trying to think, trying to hold on to something solid. But everything felt slightly off. "Also," he added after a moment, "the cameras might not be helping." My eyes snapped open. "What?" "They can make a house feel watched," he said. "For a kid, that can be unsettling." I didn't answer. "It might be better to turn them off for a while," he continued, "just until she feels safe again." Safe. The word echoed in my head. I thought about the missing footage, the small things out of place, the feeling of waking up at night. And then I thought about Lily. "Maybe," I said slowly. Even as I said it, something inside me resisted. The next morning, I stood in the living room, looking up at the camera. The small green light blinked, steady. Daniel's words echoed in my head. It might be better to turn them off. I reached for my phone, opened the app, paused. My finger hovered over the screen. Then I lowered it. I didn't turn them off. I couldn't explain why. Not fully. But for the first time, I wasn't sure who I was supposed to trust. Us. I didn't turn off the cameras. I told Daniel I would. I didn't. The next day, I kept everything the same. Same routine, same tone, same normal. I made coffee, answered emails, smiled when he walked into the room. If he noticed anything different, he didn't show it. That was the thing about Daniel. He never pushed, never raised his voice, never made anything feel like a conflict. He just adjusted, which somehow felt worse. That afternoon, while he was in the shower, I stood in the living room, looking up at the camera. The small green light blinked, steady. Recording. I pulled out my phone, opened the app, scrolled. Hours of footage. Nothing unusual. Then, another gap. Short, just a few minutes. but clean, too clean. No glitch, no distortion, just missing. My stomach tightened. This time, I didn't tell myself it was nothing. That night, I made a decision. Quiet, careful. I dug through an old storage box in the hallway closet, past winter clothes, old toys, unused cables, until I found it. A small baby monitor from when Lily was a toddler. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I set it up. Not in the bedroom, not directly. Just outside, on the hallway shelf, angled slightly toward the door. Subtle. Hidden. Legal. I told myself I was overreacting, that I'd check once, and that would be it. I didn't believe that. Later that night, Daniel fell asleep quickly. He always did. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, listening. His breathing was slow, even. Too even. At some point, I must have drifted off, because the next thing I remember was waking up. Again. No sound. No clear reason. Just awake. The room felt different. I turned my head slightly. Daniel wasn't there. My chest tightened instantly. I pushed myself up, heart starting to race. The bedroom door was slightly open. I didn't remember leaving it that way. I listened. Nothing. Then I heard it. A soft sound. Somewhere in the hallway. A floorboard. I stood up slowly, careful not to make noise. Step by step, I moved toward the door. And then I stopped. Because I realized something. If Daniel wasn't in bed, then he was somewhere in the house. And I didn't know where. I didn't open the door. I don't know why. Fear? Instinct? I just stood there, listening, waiting. And after a while, I heard footsteps again, coming closer. I stepped back into bed quickly, closed my eyes, forced my breathing to slow. A few seconds later, the mattress dipped beside me. Daniel. He didn't say anything. Just lay down. And after a moment, his breathing returned. Slow. Even. Like he had never left. The next morning, I waited until he left for a call. Then I grabbed my phone, opened the baby monitor feed. My hands were shaking. The footage loaded. Black and white. Grainy. The hallway, still. Then, movement. A figure. Daniel. Walking slowly down the hallway. Toward our bedroom. He stopped right outside the door and stood there. Not moving. Not knocking. Just standing. My breath caught. Then slowly, he reached for the door and pushed it open. The screen flickered slightly, then stabilized. And I realized something that made my blood run cold. The camera inside the living room never recorded this. I didn't confront him. Not after the footage, not after that night. I acted like nothing had changed, because everything had. The next morning, I followed the same routine. Coffee, emails, Lily's lunch. Daniel moved through the house like always, calm, easy, comfortable. "Busy day?" he asked, pouring coffee. "Just meetings," I said, my voice steady, controlled. He nodded. "I fixed the back door lock." That made me pause. I didn't know it needed fixing. "It didn't," he said, almost smiling. "Just better now." Better. I didn't ask anything else. After he left for an errand, the house went quiet. Too quiet. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. For a moment, I didn't move. Then I typed his name, Daniel Reeves. Search. Profiles came up. Work history. Photos. At first glance, everything looked clean. Too clean. I clicked through slowly. There were gaps. Not obvious ones, but enough. Years with almost no trace. Photos that didn't quite connect, like pieces from different lives. My chest tightened. I opened one of the older images and ran a reverse search. The page loaded. Then, a different name. Michael Grayson. I stared at the screen. Same face, different name. I clicked. A local news article opened. Old, years ago. His photo was there, younger but unmistakable. The headline was simple. Woman found dead in apparent household accident. I scrolled. Short article. Few details. A woman in her 30s, found in her home. No forced entry, no signs of struggle. Ruled accidental. Then I saw his name. Michael Grayson, partner. My throat tightened. I leaned back slowly, reading it again. And again. Looking for something that would explain it. There was nothing. Just one quiet conclusion. An accident. I searched deeper. More fragments surfaced. A relocation, a name change. No clear timeline. Just enough to understand. Daniel Reeves wasn't real. And whatever happened back then was now in my house. I closed the laptop, opened it again, like it might change. It didn't. The house felt different now. Every room, every corner, not safe, not mine. The front door opened. I froze. I shut the laptop too fast. The sound was louder than I expected. "Hey!" Daniel called. I forced my voice steady. "Hey!" Footsteps moved closer. Calm. Familiar. He stepped into the kitchen, smiling. Like always. "Everything okay?" he asked. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see Daniel. "I'm fine," I said. And that was the most dangerous lie I had told. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I kept my eyes closed and my breathing steady, the way people do when they don't want to be noticed. Daniel lay beside me, quiet and still. His breathing was even, too even. I focused on it. In, out, waiting. At some point, something shifted. Not a sound, a presence. Then the mattress moved. Slow, careful. He got up. I didn't react. I didn't move. I just listened as his footsteps crossed the room. Soft, controlled, almost deliberate. The door opened slightly, then closed. And he was gone. I opened my eyes. The room felt wrong. I sat up slowly, listening harder now. A faint sound came from the hallway. One step, then nothing. I reached for my phone and opened the baby monitor feed. The screen flickered, then steadied. Black and white, grainy. The hallway was empty. for a second. Then he appeared. Daniel stood just outside the bedroom door, not moving, not knocking, just standing there, his head tilted slightly like he was listening to me, to my breathing. I felt my chest tighten. Slowly, he reached for the door and pushed it open. I dropped back onto the pillow and closed my eyes instantly, forcing my breathing to stay even. I heard him step inside, closer, then closer again. The air shifted. He was near the bed now. I felt the mattress dip slightly, not like he was sitting, just leaning, waiting. Something moved near my face, a hand, hovering. I kept my breathing steady, counting each inhale, each exhale, trying not to react. Seconds stretched longer than they should have. Then he pulled back. The pressure lifted. His footsteps retreated. Quiet, controlled. The door closed. Silence. I opened my eyes slowly. The room was empty again, but this time there was no doubt left. I wasn't imagining anything. The next morning, Lily was already in the kitchen, sitting at the table, watching me, like she had been waiting for me to understand. I sat across from her, my hands colder than they should have been. "Lily." She looked at me, calm, certain. "You've seen him at night, haven't you?" She nodded. No hesitation. My throat tightened. "What does he do?" Her voice was quiet, flat. "He stands there." "Where?" "In your room." I felt my fingers curl against the table. "Doing what?" She paused, then said it. "He checks." I leaned forward slightly. "Checks what?" She looked straight into my eyes. "If you're still breathing." Everything inside me went still, and in that moment, I stopped hoping I was wrong. I didn't say anything after that. I couldn't. Lily's words stayed in the air between us, heavy and impossible to ignore. "If you're still breathing." I stared at her, trying to understand how long she had known, how long she had been carrying this alone. "How many times?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Then, "A lot." My chest tightened. "And you didn't tell me?" Her eyes dropped to the table. "I did." The words hit harder than anything else. I did. I felt something crack inside me. All the moments I brushed her off. All the times I told her she was imagining things. All the times I chose him over her fear. "I'm sorry," I whispered. My voice didn't sound like mine. She didn't respond. She just sat there, small and still, like she had already accepted that I wouldn't listen. That hurt more than anything. I reached across the table slowly this time. She didn't pull away, but she didn't move closer either. That distance, it wasn't physical, and I knew I had created it. "I believe you now," I said. She looked up at me. Really looked. Like she was trying to decide if that was true. "Are we safe?" she asked. The question landed harder than anything else, because I didn't have an answer, not a real one. I forced myself to stay calm. "We're going to be," I said. Not a promise. Not yet. Just a decision. That was the moment everything shifted. I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't hoping I was wrong. I knew exactly what we were dealing with. And I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't let him know that. That morning, I moved carefully. Same routine, same tone, same normal. Daniel came into the kitchen like always. "Morning," he said. I smiled. "Morning." No hesitation, no change. He poured his coffee, leaning casually against the counter. Lily stayed quiet. Didn't look at him. He noticed. Of course he did. "She okay?" he asked. His voice was calm, concerned. "Perfect." "She didn't sleep well," I said. That part wasn't a lie. He nodded slightly. "Kids pick up on stress," he said. I held his gaze for a second, then looked away. "Yeah." I kept everything steady. Inside, nothing was. After he left the room, I exhaled slowly. My hands were shaking, not from fear anymore, from clarity. I needed to get us out, but not fast, not obvious. careless moves would get us hurt, or worse, make him realize I knew. So I planned, quietly, carefully. I packed a small bag that afternoon, just essentials, clothes for Lily, documents, cash. I didn't use my card. I didn't leave anything obvious. I hid the bag in the trunk of my car, then I went back inside, like nothing had changed. That night, I followed the same routine. Dinner, dishes, lights off, bed. Daniel lay beside me again, breathing slow, even. I didn't close my eyes right away. I stared into the dark, listening, waiting. Because now, I knew what would happen, and I needed to be sure. Hours passed. Then, the shift. The mattress moved. He got up, same as before. Quiet, controlled. The door opened, closed, gone. I didn't wait this time. I reached for my phone immediately, opened the monitor. The hallway appeared, then him, standing outside the door, waiting, listening. I watched his hand reach for the handle, watched him step inside. I lowered the phone slowly, closed my eyes, let it happen. The air changed again. He was close, too close. The mattress dipped slightly. His presence hovered over me. I felt it, that pause, that stillness, like he was measuring something, timing something, my breathing, my body, my life. Seconds passed. Then he stepped back, left the room, same as before. But this time, I understood. He wasn't waiting. He was learning. I opened my eyes into the darkness, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid, not in the same way, because fear meant uncertainty, and I didn't have that anymore. I had something else, a plan. The next morning, I woke Lily early, before the sun fully came up. She looked at me, confused. "Get dressed," I said quietly. "We're leaving." She didn't ask questions. She didn't hesitate. That told me everything I needed to know. We moved quickly, quietly, shoes in hand, voices low. I grabbed the keys, opened the door. The cold morning air hit my face, sharp, real. We stepped outside, and for the first time in days, I could breathe. I led her to the car, opened the back door. She climbed in. I turned the key. The engine started, and just before I pulled away, I looked up at the house, at the windows, at the place I thought was safe, and for a second, I thought about everything I had ignored, everything she had tried to tell me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, then I drove, because I finally understood the truth. Not when it started, not when he moved in, not when the cameras failed, not even when I saw the footage. I understood it now. Too late, but not too late to survive. My daughter wasn't afraid of him. She never was. She was afraid for me. I thought I was building a safe home for my daughter. I thought I was giving her stability, love, protection. But I was wrong. She saw the danger before I did. She tried to warn me again and again, and I didn't listen. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the stranger outside your door, it's the one you let inside.